past few days, I have heard a lot of talk, especially with the presidential elections, the candidates getting more involved about what the greatest problem facing America is. I've heard, is it the economy? Is it ISIS or terrorism? Is it climate change? Is it racism, gun control, abortion? Maybe the pending definition of marriage? Well, I would agree that most of those are incredibly very important issues. But I would suggest to you all that there's an even greater issue. And with today being Father's Day, I think it's the absence of good fathers in the home. And I don't mean those who are taken short of their time through sickness or some tragedy. And I thank God for the dedicated, loving fathers that we have here. And I want you to know we appreciate you. But I want to share a little bit with you why I think fathers and daddies are so important. I think we're all here today because we believe in truth. We believe the Bible is God's infallible word, and because we want, like the psalmist David said, to live according to truth. And I think probably more than anything else, that's what we want for our sons and daughters also. But when we or our kids walk away from truth, we've been gutted. Do you ever feel gutted when you turn on the news and you see another shooting like the one that took place in South Carolina the other day? I do. There's just something that just rips at the core of you. Or when you hear statistics like this. There was a survey that was done by a group of, and I don't know how big the group was, but self-identified born-again young people in evangelical churches. When they were asked if there was an absolute or universal truth, a truth that's true for all people, all times, all places, in 1991, 52% said that there is no truth apart from themselves. And mind you, these are young people in church. In 1994, that number rose to 62%. In 1999, it rose to 78%. You want to guess what it is today? 91% of our young people in our evangelical churches do not believe there's any truth apart from themselves. Or this, same type of group of young people. When questioned, is the Bible the infallible word of God and true in every situation? In 1995, only 10% agreed. Now, that number is under 4%. Those are staggering statistics. And to me, it suggests that something is really wrong somewhere. And perhaps we can make sense when we understand from the moment that we are born, we are hardwired to connect. Not spiritually, not emotionally, but physically and biologically, our brains are formed to connect in relationships. Dartmouth University conducted over 250 studies on this very subject. And finally, science catches up with the Bible. Because, do you know what David said? The New Living Translation says, I have been constantly aware of your unfailing love, and I have lived according to truth. Don't you know that if David had not seen and been aware of God's unfailing love, that he never ever would have lived according to truth? And even then he stumbled. But it was because he was constantly, not sometimes, not some years not, aware of his Father's love that caused him to want to live according to truth. So I hope you see the picture. Unless you have truth and a loving relationship come together, it is hard for a child to ever want to walk according to truth. Unless there's that loving, intimate, connected relationship combined with the truth that is taught, most children will walk away from their parents' values. Did you know that the FBI spent millions of dollars over several years after the Columbine shooting, and they studied 17 different shooters from that time forward? And they found a few things that all of those shooters had in common. The first was that they were all white, they were all from middle-class families, And the one that struck me the most is that in every case, and I don't know about this most recent one, but the fathers in these children's lives were absent or very distant in the parenting process. Columbia University did another extensive study after Columbine to see if they could find any common factors that would lead children to drugs and alcohol that would further lead to violence. And this is what they found. Single-parent homes, the children are 30% more likely to fall into that type of thing. Two-parent home, but with a poor relationship with the father, 68% more likely. Two-parent with a good to excellent relationship with the father, you almost have to state it in a negative way because the way the norm was established, but they're 94% less likely. It's possible, but it's highly improbable. So I don't know if you caught that. And believe you me, I'm all about the structure. Two-parent homes are really important. I believe it's biblical and it's an issue that's very important to me. But we can't forsake the relationship in the structure for the sake of the structure itself. And I think sometimes, especially within our churches, it's easy to do that. So when we see these behaviors from young people, behavior is just the tip of the iceberg. And I don't know, did you get that diagram? If you didn't, it's fine. No big deal. No problem. Okay. So you can think of it kind of a diagram. And behavior's up here, and this is what we see. But behavior is driven by our values, right? And where do our values come from? They're formed by our beliefs. But the big question is where do our beliefs come from? You might be surprised to know that the answer is they are engendered, they come about because of our relationships. Why do you think there are so many young people today that cannot possibly fathom the love that God has for them? Is it because it's not true? No, God loves them. But maybe it's because they've never experienced the unfailing love of a father. To clarify, that's not to say that a good father, one who combines truth and love, is guaranteed that his child or children will walk in truth. There's absolutely no scriptural guarantee that that will happen because that would take away our free will. It can happen that a child will walk away from both truth and love with the very best of parents, but statistically speaking, it is very rare. So I hope you fathers know, and I think you do, that you have one of the most powerful platforms in the entire world to speak into the lives of our young people. More powerful than a famous athlete, the president, a rock star, a movie actor, actress, because there's hardly a kid in the world that doesn't want to hear the heart of a father. Do you know what Michael Jackson, the king of pop, said one time, speaking to a large group of college students? He began to weep profusely, and he said, "All I've ever wanted in life was a father's love. All I wanted was for my father to call me and say, 'Michael, I love you,' and he never has." On the flip side, General Douglas MacArthur, you boys know who he was? One of the greatest military leaders of all times, led the Allied troops to victory during the darkest days of World War II, and he's credited with some of the most brilliant military moves in the history of warfare. In 1942, he was nominated to receive an award for being a good father, and this is what he said. This is a powerful man. "Nothing has touched me more deeply than the act of the National Father's Day Committee. By profession, I'm a soldier, and I take great pride in that fact. But I'm prouder, infinitely prouder, to be a father. A soldier destroys in order to build. The father only builds, never destroys. The one has the potentialities of death, the other embodies creation and life. And while the hordes of death are mighty, the battalions of life are mightier still. It is my hope that my son, when I'm gone, will remember me, not from battle, but in the home." So again, I think one of the very biggest problems facing America today is the lack of good fathers, not perfect, just good fathers relationship. And those of you who have such a father can't understand, and I thank God that you don't, the heart cry of those whose fathers are absent or distant. So appreciate your fathers today. If you have them, thank them and pray for those who don't have them. And I will add that a lot of the statistics and thoughts that I had here, give credit where credit is due, came from a presentation given by Josh McDowell, a Christian researcher, author, and speaker.